B-17 Flying Fortress, considered to be one of the most dramatic symbols of United States air strength during World War II. Nearly 13,000 of these planes were produced between 1935 and the end of the war. Today, just 10 in the world are left flying. 6 are here. The National Warplane Museum owns one of them. Our Fuddy Duddy is a B-17 G model and was built in 1945. After waiting out the war in a Pacific-based depot, the plane was converted to a VIP transport. After her military service, Fuddy was used in Arizona as a crop duster and firefighter. We bought her in 1985, and since then have been restoring Fuddy to her former grandeur. She was dedicated and given the name Fuddy Duddy in September of '87. The original Fuddy Duddy flew over Europe and had completed 96 missions without an abort, including a forced landing in France. On her last mission, Fuddy Duddy was lost, along with all but 2 of her crew, in a mid-air collision over Germany with another B-17.
It is like a person. You speak of, reverently, just like you would a person that you love. Having been through, you know, I came home 2 or 3 times on 2 engines, and it was a forgiving airplane, and it got me home all right. Maybe I did a good job of flying it, but the airplane helped. It just got us there and got us back.
Colonel Harry Staley piloted his B-17 Blackjack in bombing missions over the Pacific. He kept a journal of each run made.
Well, anyway, our target was shipping in Shortland, Fazy Harbor, Shortland Island. Well, I came across and I picked this boat up. I'm all alone, it's dark. 7,000, I come down and there's a little scud cloud in front of me. So I gotta get down underneath it. And all of a sudden I look out the right corner of my vision and I see this jagged thing going up into that cloud. I'm headed right for a mountain. So I racked this, well, the good thing was some moonlit intensity, so I could see that jagged. So I racked the airplane around, I came around the top of that, and my radio operator said I could have plucked limbs off that tree when we went around the edge of that mountain. And I came right back around, and here's a boat right in front of me. We skipped 4 or 5 500-pound bombs into it, and they were just about ready to start firing, and I said, "Don't fire, there's another boat right in front of me." And I still got 4 bombs left, so I skipped 4 of them into him. I got 2 bullets that night.
While the colonel was doing his duty overseas, others were back home helping train new B-17 crews. Dawn Seymour was a civilian B-17 pilot.
We loved to fly. The women pilots loved to fly. And it was never boredom, it was never a gruel. So some of the men didn't like to fly as much as we did. And they just let us fly. They let us take over the you know, as much as we wanted. And they'd sit back and read a paper or whatever, you know.
Dawn flew her B-17 over Florida while gunners trained for combat.
I am a privileged woman. I'm privileged to have lived my life. And if you can say that at my age, that's really what counts, isn't it? That you enjoyed the adventure.
Although she never saw the fight, Dawn could empathize with the wartime experience.
I admire every gunner who ever flew an airplane in combat. They were stuck in something, and they had to actually go on a mission, and they knew what they were getting into. They knew the flak was there, they knew the fighters were there, and they weren't flying the airplane, so they weren't distracted. When you're flying, it's just like driving a car. When you're driving, you know, it's wonderful. You solve the problem. You handle emergencies. But they're sitting there. They're waiting for the action. They're waiting for what might happen. And I think the strain on a gunner might be as tremendous as it would be on a pilot. I have great admiration for them.
Once trained, B-17 crews headed to overseas destinations to play their part in the biggest air battle in world history.
They don't have long to wait for another rendezvous. this time with the enemy.
Blue leader here. Watch it, fellows. 109 to 10 o'clock.
They get rid of their long-range wing tanks before the fight. Then down they go for the kill. With a touch of a finger on the stick, a camera and 8 machine guns are put into action. Small cameras set on the wings make the record. Too often poor pictures due to gun vibration. But they let you see what happens in the instant of action, as the pilot sees it.
Looks like they're trying to lead us away from the bombers.
Green leader here. You're right. Here comes another, 9 o'clock.
The Jerrys make a sneak attack on our bombers from behind. Gun camera film, captured from the enemy, reveals how they hammer our bombers with their 22 millimeters. This one had half his tail shot off, but is still going ahead.
The bomber was dubbed the Flying Fortress by a reporter who saw it leave the production line. She lived up to that title. Time and time again, the B-17 proved herself dependable to the crews who flew her.
You knew that when you got in that blackjack that you knew that you were going to get near and you were going to get home. But you just had that feeling before you took on. And actually you had a different attitude when you had a different airplane. It was, I don't know, it was living, we used to live under the wing of the airplane. We were stationed in Australia, and we'd fly to Port Moresby, New Guinea, and stay up there for 5 or 6 days, fly 4 or 5 missions. And we have mosquito bars tied on the wing. We'd have little K-ration kits, and we'd eat and sleep and fly without getting over 100 feet away from the airplane. You know, days on end. So it was a person, and the forgiving aeronautical characteristic of the airplane is probably what made you fall in love with it, because it was so graceful.
And of all these great bombers, just 10 are left flying. 9 in North America, 1 in England. 6 will fly here today. We gratefully acknowledge the presence of these airplanes and the crews who worked so hard to get them here. Sentimental Journey. Confederate Air Force, Phoenix, Arizona. '04, F model, Bob Richardson, Seattle, Washington. '100 Bomb Group, David Talashe, Chino, California. Chucky, BC Vintage Flying Machines, Fort Worth, Texas. Aluminum Overcast, Experimental Aircraft Association, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. As the 6 Eagles approached the airfield in front of us, a crowd of 40,000 hushed with awe. Those of us who were there will never forget the image, the sight, the sound, the feeling.
No change of power. Numbers 2 and 5, are you clear set on aim? Won't I give you enough room here? Number 2 and 3, look out, I can't see behind me.
As we looked up into the sky, across our beautiful Genesee Valley, we knew we had witnessed history. We might not ever see what we had seen again. We realized the importance of shows like this, what all the work is for, why it's good. Soon the planes would land and leave an empty sky full of memories and clouds. But for this moment, we watch and we think, and we know what we've seen.